In this video, we'll be doing something completely different. This isn't just going to be another AI tools demo. We're going to go further, a lot further, into deep history, prehistory, absolutely extinct history. In May, Google's VO3 was launched and everyone went crazy.
Wow!
These big breakthroughs were sound effects, lip sync, and perfect hands, all from a single prompt. Not that I need all that right now, but still, it looks great too. I've watched loads of VO clips where I actually thought the footage was real. Maybe not that one, but that still looks cool. I thought I'd put it through a test. I wanted to make a nature documentary with a twist. All of the animals you're going to see are totally extinct. I'm going to be your presenter as we go prehistoric, the land before time, huge dinosaurs, gigantic amphibians, massive fish. I'll throw in a dodo for a bit of modernity as well. So that's the title of this AI-generated nature documentary. 6 totally extinct animals brought back to life using Google's VO3. It's going to be incredible. Or so we thought. It turns out it's a lot less straightforward than I was made to believe. While there are thousands of people on here showing their perfect demos of generating comic book characters, there appear to be exactly none who explain the pitfalls. The problem with extinct animals is it's kind of niche. I guess everyone knows what a woolly mammoth looks like, right? A big hairy elephant. But for the Ichthyostega, which is pretty hard to pronounce, I doubt many really have a clue. My theory is that there just aren't enough images and videos of these animals for VO3's model to train on, leading to some really quite weird results. To add to this challenge, there isn't always agreement on exactly what some of these creatures actually look like. T-Rex had feathers, apparently, although the king of the dinosaurs would probably be fuming if you dressed him up like a giant chicken. So while our factually accurate documentary was something of a disaster, we made something that was still kind of fascinating. What can AI video generation get right, and what can go wrong when it comes to making a prehistoric nature film? A cautionary tale, perhaps, for all those who believe AI is the answer to everything. So let's get into the weird and often infuriating journey back through time with Google's VO3. Ichthyostega. I wanted to start with this giant amphibious blob. It's called Ichthyostega, and when I prompted Google Gemini to come up with my list of totally extinct animals, I had absolutely no idea what it was. It's also the oldest animal on this list, at 360 million years old. That's way older than mammals, birds, or even dinosaurs. So this image is an illustration I found on Fandom. As you can see, it looks kind of confusing to start with. Like a stumpy crocodile? Was it a land dweller or a fish? Well, this ambiguity can be explained by evolution. Ichthyostega was one of the first vertebrates to crawl out of the sea and slither about on the shore. It was a transitional species, a missing link that was neither fully fish nor fully amphibian, but something in between. It was 1 to 1.5 meters long and probably also had both lungs and internal gills. Now, all this evolutionary confusion is not something I'd expect AI to be very good at sorting out. But I had hope for more. Still, this is what we got. Funny enough, the fossils for Ichthyostega were found in Greenland, which is now largely frozen waste. But in the late Devonian period, this landmass would have been close to the equator and a primordial swamp. So that's where we started prompting, swimming through a prehistoric swamp. As you can see, I'm not sure this is quite right. My generation has clearly got the part fish, part amphibian thing going on with its webbed feet or fins, while it has the body of a fish and a face somewhere between a salmon and a snake. Maybe we'll get a bit more from this side view. It does look a bit better, but then VO3 ruined it by making it swim slightly above water. Okay, let's see it move from the water onto the shore of the swamp. So it's still swimming above water, but it's lost its fishtail. And now it has quite long legs in proportion to its body. How strange. Let's try it from another angle. You know what? This one is quite good. The legs are a little bit long and it's not quite stumpy enough, but it's a bit closer to what we want, which, if you can remember, looks something like this. Okay, it's fully on the land now, crawling along. For some reason, it's grown a plate-like structure on the sides of its head, but other than that, this is probably the closest we've got so far. The final shot is a close-up of Ichthyostega heading back into the water. It looks nice, but it's a bit too lean and dinosaur-like. Its legs are a bit long too. Now, after all of that, I feel like I've gone through 100 million years of evolutionary history in one animal. It's plausible that ancestors and descendants of Ichthyostega did look like some of those creations, but the big problem we were having was consistency. Meganeura. Now, if we fast forward in time by about 60 million years, we enter the Carboniferous period. Earth's oxygen levels were significantly higher than today, estimated at around 35% compared to today's 21%. Insects breathe through a system of air tubes, not lungs, so their size is limited by how efficiently they can get oxygen into their bodies. But in the Carboniferous, with more oxygen, they could get big. Really big. Say hello to Meganeura, a giant carnivorous dragonfly, and the biggest insect known to have lived, with a 2.5-foot wingspan, which is terrifying in itself. But perhaps more terrifying than being attacked by a giant insect is what Google VO returned. I thought it'd be pretty easy to depict a giant dragonfly, because dragonflies still exist, and there must be quite a lot to go off. But how wrong I was. What was interesting is the first Meganeura generation used the basic prompt, Meganeura flying over prehistoric swamp. Here you can see it's a pretty good video, to the untrained eye. It was only when we started using the more detailed description that we were confronted with many versions of the demon fly bat hybrid. Why, oh why, are its wings being like a bat? No insect flaps its wings like that. And why on earth are groups of them flying in formation? We wrote a very detailed prompt for this, perhaps too detailed, but having insects flying around in diamond formation makes no sense. Then, for some unknown reason, the group went down to 3, turned around, and had some kind of giant phallus at their fronts. What is that? Okay, we did generate some more, and they did get better, but I really had high hopes with this one that VO would be able to pull it off. I even prompted it with a modern dragonfly image, and still its wings didn't hum like an insect. It's these small details that are unthinkable to you or I, where AI can fall down. Insects don't flap their wings. Although, to be fair to VO, the fossil record of Meganeura is pretty sparse. We've only got a few specimens, and we can't be certain of exactly what they look like or how they beat their wings. But I think we can be more certain it looked like this than this. There is no evidence that it had horns like a devil or wings like an eagle. Some of the generations look like some sort of Fallout series nuclear nightmare, which is fair enough given the oxygen-heavy atmosphere. But this is just unacceptable.
Tyrannosaurus Rex.
Okay, after that nightmare, I needed to go onto something a bit more likely to succeed. The most famous dinosaur. Almost a cliche in a list of totally extinct animals, but one where AI could certainly train on. The Jurassic Park franchise wouldn't be a bad place to start. Tyrannosaurus Rex lived around 68 to 66 million years ago, during the late Cretaceous period in what is now Western North America. It was one of the last non-avian dinosaurs before the mass extinction event that wiped them out. Fully grown, T-Rex could reach up to 12 metres in length and stand about 4 metres tall at the hips. It weighed between 8 to 10 tonnes, similar to a London bus, but with teeth designed to crush bone and tear through flesh. Its skull alone measured over 1.5 metres, and it was packed with 60 thick, serrated teeth, some over 30 centimetres long. It had one of the strongest bites of any land mammal ever, estimated at over 5,000 kilograms. That's horrendous. Now with Tyrannosaurus Rex, unlike less well-known creatures, I didn't really have any trouble with the consistency of look from one video to another. Although I kept using the same detailed prompt description for each one, and in this case using a detailed prompt works perfectly. The T-Rex does have a lot of images on Google after all. Although Gemini couldn't provide us with an exact number of images of a T-Rex on Google, it did tell me that it was a very famous dinosaur and consistently listed among the most well-known extinct animals. With the basic T-Rex locked down, I decided to get a little bit more adventurous. I could get the Tyrannosaurus roaring okay, although the sound was still slightly off, but trying to get the Rex to attack its favourite prey, the Edmontosaurus, it was a whole different story. From shouting near each other, to gentle nuzzling, and finally just resting one's head in the other's mouth. It just didn't really work. I also tried it out with feathers, as some recent theories have suggested, but I still can't get over that the most terrifying creature that ever lived walked about like a giant chicken. It's almost as ridiculous as those Meganeura creations. I also checked Google AI overviews, which everyone takes as fact nowadays, and it said there is no evidence from the fossil record that T-Rex had feathers. So I'm just going to keep it as a giant reptile. Not a big bird.
Smilodon.
So skipping ahead a bit in prehistoric timescales, the dinosaurs went extinct due to some meteor strike. Then birds and mammals filled the rather large hole. Not that hole. There were actually mammals knocking about as long as 220 million years ago. But it was in the Pleistocene epoch, starting about 2.5 million years ago, when mammals started getting absolutely gigantic. This allowed for some pretty big mammal predators, and one of these was Smilodon, or the saber-toothed tiger. While it shares its name, it diverged from the ancestor of modern big cats about 20 million years ago. It was of similar size to the modern tiger, but stockier, and its most famous attribute were its more than 10-inch teeth, which it used to puncture the throat of ground sloths and bison. I was excited for this one. A tiger, but with two giant saber teeth. Should be pretty simple for the AI to get right. Regrettably, I got a little too ambitious. Similar to the T-Rex, the idea was there are plenty of images on Google of a saber-toothed tiger, not much ambiguity, and there are plenty of documentaries to reference of big cats hunting. Let's just first keep it simple with a saber-toothed tiger walking through a dense, bushy landscape. Nice. That looks pretty good. Quite AI or CGI, but it's not a bad start. So I tried to create a video of a saber-toothed tiger chasing an ancient bison through the low-lying brush. Initially, I went down the route of inputting highly detailed prompts, both creating the text myself and then using the support of Google Gemini. This is what we got. I'm sorry, I don't know what that was. It certainly didn't look like a saber-tooth. Maybe highly detailed prompts aren't the way to go here. Let's just keep it simple. This is a photorealistic Smilodon actively hunting a prehistoric bison. This didn't quite pan out either. For some reason the bison ended up hunting the Smilodon. Again, the predator and prey ended up more as potential lovers than having a fight. No wonder it went extinct. On to the next one.
The Woolly Mammoth.
To be fair to the saber-tooth, it actually went extinct due to climate change and its main sources of prey dying out. One of the beasts it would have gobbled up in the later Ice Age was the woolly mammoth, which first appeared around 400,000 years ago and crossed over with modern humans, finally going extinct in 4000 BC. As we well know, the mammoth is the icon of the Ice Age and stood at a similar height to modern elephants, although it was covered in fur. Small ears and a short tail minimised heat loss, while a high domed skull and sloping back helped it navigate snowy terrain. My AI woolly mammoth turned out really well. I could easily produce consistent replicas in each video, and multiple mammoths didn't cause any issues, as it did with Meganeura. This is probably because the woolly mammoth sits right up there at the top of the extinct animal popularity, alongside the T-Rex. Our primitive hunters, whilst sometimes coming out looking like Arctic orcs from some Lord of the Rings spin-off, worked pretty well when following the woollies or walking near them. Once again, when we get into more complex actions, like throwing spears, things started getting a bit strange. Entire tribes of humans would have relied on hunting mammoths for food, but these guys really don't look like the smartest. I'm sure I could fix these issues if I sat prompting VO3 for several weeks, but life's too short, and this is proof that getting good results from the latest models still isn't that easy.
The Dodo.
Okay, we're on to the grand finale, arguably the most famous extinct animal. A bird that vanished not millions of years ago, but within recorded memory. The dodo was a flightless bird that lived on the remote island of Mauritius in the Indian Ocean. It was first described by European sailors in the 16th century, shortly after the island was discovered. It stood around 1 metre tall, weighed up to 15 kilograms, and had no natural fear of humans. With stubby wings and no ability to fly, it waddled through Mauritius's forests, feeding on fruit, seeds, and possibly small land creatures. The dodo had evolved in isolation for thousands of years, with no large predators. On an island free of threats, flight became unnecessary. It traded its wings with strong legs and a large body, but that evolutionary advantage became a fatal flaw the moment humans arrived. Portuguese and Dutch sailors reached Mauritius in the late 1500s, and with them came the true danger. Not just people, but the animals they brought. Rats, pigs, monkeys, and dogs. These invasive species raided dodo nests, devoured eggs, and destroyed the delicate ecological balance that had once protected the bird. Within a century of its discovery, the dodo was gone. The dodo. Man, I love this bird. What a strange looking creature. And what a great name. Dodo. When creating the video for the dodo, I thought it wouldn't have many issues, because it's another very popular extinct animal, with plenty of pre-existing images for VO to work with. Unfortunately, when I kept the prompt simple, video of a dodo walking by a prehistoric lake, I got this. It doesn't look anything like a dodo, which was really surprising, although I'm not sure why I needed to say prehistoric lake either. The next approach was to use Google Gemini to help come up with a detailed description of the dodo to use as a prompt, which we would then edit to my liking and use on each video for consistency. But what came out still did not look like the dodo I was expecting. It turns out the dodo is just so odd looking that words can't do it justice. I couldn't quite get that famous beak right. It was time for a different approach. I decided that Google VO3 generate an image and used that. This worked, but it was trial and error. We had to do this multiple times in order to get the right image of the dodo in the right background. Eventually, I got there with my dodo, and it turned out really well. A happy ending for us, but not so much for the dodo. Okay, so that's your last animal. While it's probably not time to set up a new channel called Totally Extinct Animals quite yet, we had some pretty good outcomes. I didn't have all the time in the world to do all of this, and maybe my prompting could have been a bit better, but I did often use some very detailed prompts and sometimes some JSON ones too. Some of the generations were just a bit too strange to be usable, some downright odd, and others like something from a nightmare. While I'm sure we'll be able to get to better outcomes in a year or so, the final word here is that using VO3 to create a proper prehistoric nature documentary would still take a very long time. Although not as long as the dinosaurs were around, but that's irrelevant. It's not the kind of thing that you could realistically get one person in their bedroom doing and expect a very good outcome. So if you make nature documentaries, it doesn't look like AI will be making you extinct anytime soon, even if the animals you want to show don't even exist. And what is this generation all about? I swear I didn't do it, like someone has hacked my account or something. What is that? What is this? Thanks for watching, everyone. Make sure you like this video and leave us a friendly comment. Send it to a friend and subscribe so you can watch us next time. It will be absolutely agentic.